Hello everyone, this is Andrew with MrRCSound. I'd like to introduce the new MrRCSound ASPIRE. This is the next upgrade in sound cards from MrRCSound for RC vehicles. Currently it's airplanes, but in the future I will have versions for boats, helicopters, cars, trucks, and possibly tanks. So this is the new card. This is way far and above what the version 4.1 is, and also I believe that it is far and above any other system out there on the market today. We've packed this with features. We've been working on this for nearly 2 years now, and tried to do everything to get this right, get it functioning properly the way that we think that our customers will like it. We've come up with a new method of sound creation, so that the idle sounds, all the startup sounds, the shutdown sounds, idle sounds, and high RPM sounds are real sounds from the respective engines, and the RPM range is done with a new method that gives a very realistic RPM range going up through the RPM. So let's go over a few of the features here of the new ASPIRE. So as you can see here, there's 4 connectors, servo connectors. The first one goes to the throttle. The second one is always a gun sound. It's always machine gun sound. The third servo, it's labeled servo 3 on the board, is random ground chatter. Okay, so this is sounds for civilian aircraft. Will have sounds of both aircraft requesting takeoff, the ground control issuing clearance for takeoff, stuff like that. Servo 4 is usually a contact or a clear prop. In the case of the one engine, trying to think here. In the case of the one engine, it is actually a whistle sound, which is for the Stuka dive bomber. So this comes loaded with 10 sounds. 2 of them are duplicates. The reason for that is there's an automatic whistle trigger. It's a G-force enabled trigger. Okay, so what happens is when the card is mounted with the speaker ports forward, these are the speaker ports right here, real easy connect, disconnect. With that forward, it will trigger a whistle in a dive. With the speaker ports facing backwards, it will trigger the whistle in a climb or sometimes in a hard banking turn. So that is one of the new features that is really neat. So there's no need to trigger the whistle. So as I said, two of the sounds are duplicated. So the Merlin and the double wasp engine sound are duplicated. One sound, one of them has the whistle. The other one, if you don't want the whistle, you can run that without the whistle. So that it gives you flexibility there. All the sounds are changed via a push button. So when you push the button here, it will actually announce what engine it's on. It will say Merlin or Double Wasp or Lycoming. Okay, so you know exactly what you're on. And it has a memory that retains what sound you were on last. So when you press the button and choose, let's say, Lycoming, you go around to Lycoming. You want it left on Lycoming because you're running a Cessna. The next time you plug it in, it will not announce, but it will stay on the Lycoming. The reason that it doesn't announce is it just adds a little bit of extra realism, so it's not calling out every time you turn the system on. Looking at a few of the features here, this port here that you see here, that is a future port for a combat module. It actually also runs the LED lights that flash in sequence with the gun sound, and that would be these 2 ports here. Red always goes on top, black always goes on bottom. This port here is actually output to a secondary amplifier if you want to do more than 2 speakers. This will output to more than 2 speakers, and I'll have instructions on how to hook that up and stuff with the secondary amplifier. Over on this end, we have the power pigtail, of course, and then in here we have the volume. It's recessed a little bit so you're not hitting it. You can get your fingernail on it and turn it, shouldn't be a problem. Heat sink for heat dissipation. The board does get a little bit on the warm side, but this will keep it from getting too hot. So those are the functions of the, those are the features. The functions, like I said, it has random chatter for civilian aircraft. It has random ground chatter for military aircraft. And then it also has random startups and shutdowns. So each engine type, let's say the Merlin, for example, I believe that has 11 different startups and somewhere around 6 or 8 different shutdowns. They're taken from Merlin engines, so they are absolutely real. Sometimes engines have a little bit of a cough, a sputter, or something like that. So each time you fly, it randomly chooses a startup and randomly chooses a shutdown. So each flight is semi-unique. So that's pretty much it for the features of the card. It has a much higher end processor than the version 4.1. It's taken over 10,000 lines of code to make this work properly. So there's an amazing amount of technology in this. It can accept anywhere from 3S LiPo pack up to a 10S LiPo pack without any problems. It draws about 2.5 amps max with 2 TT25 transducers. The amplifier chip is actually rated way higher than what was on the version 4.1. It's actually lowered in the software so that we're not using it all because we have to stay within the limits of the TT25. But there is a possibility for in the future to go with larger speakers, higher wattage speakers if desired, and possibly even may come out with some future transducers. But again, we want to keep things as light and as small as possible to fit in as many airplanes as possible. So TT25s are what is highly recommended now. So why don't I plug this in and we will show you the different options, the different things that it can do, and the different engine sounds. So here we have the card all installed in this airframe. Now this is a very small airframe. I use this for demonstrations. Things are a little bit cluttered in there, but I just want to show you that it does all fit into a very narrow airframe. So as you can see here, we're only talking less than 2.5 inches in width, and the card fits down in there nicely. Okay, we're all ready to plug in the system and try it out. A couple things I should mention. All the sounds are digitally recorded. They are at 44 kilohertz, 16-bit. So that is actually what would be considered CD quality sound. Excuse me. So try to get you the best quality sound as possible out of the new Aspire here. So what we're going to hear when we plug this in, you're going to hear a little bit of static. That's normal. The system's starting up, and then it will go silent. There actually is no need to plug the card in after the ESC and receiver boot up, but I still recommend it just in case. But it actually does a very fine job of finding the low point of the throttle when you plug it in. And the receiver comes up. It does a great job of finding that. So let me adjust my radio trim here just a little bit. Okay, we'll start it right about there. Okay, and we're going to plug this in. You'll hear some static. Okay, and then it goes silent. And the first sound we're going to hear, this is the Lycoming, so it will randomly choose a startup and randomly choose a shutdown for us, okay? You might hear the beeping of my radio here, just disregard that. Now we'll try the Merlin sound. Merlin with automatic whistle. Okay, so this has the automatic whistle, so once we get it up and running, I'm going to tilt it forward like the plane is going into a dive, and that should trigger the whistle for us. Okay, the next one is double wasp. Double wasp with automatic whistle. Okay, next sound on the list, I believe is, well, I'm not sure. Let me see. I'm not sure if it's Continental next. Let's see. Continental. Continental, there it is. Now let me just, well, we'll come back to that. I was going to show you the ground sounds and stuff like that, but we'll do the engine sounds first and then come back to the auxiliary sounds. Wasp Junior. Okay, so this is the Wasp Junior. This is the engine that's used in the Beaver. I believe some other airplanes use it as well. Wright Cyclone. Wright Cyclone, typically used on T-28 as well as some other planes. Radial engine. BMW 801. BMW 801, used in BF 109 and a few other German airplanes. generic jet, and this is the last sound except for the Merlin and the double wasp without without the automatic whistle. So let's try some auxiliary sounds here.
Merlin, no whistle.
Okay, Merlin, no whistle. Let's see what we've got. There's machine guns. I'll start up the engine and let you hear that with the engine running. The ground sounds should only be used on the ground because the engine sound really does cover them up. But let's see what we got here.
Clear prop.
We got a clear prop. Okay, so that's on servo 4.
Clear prop.
And let's see what other sounds we have. We should have the random ground sounds for military aircraft.
Check your gauges and get those props spinning.
Okay, if you couldn't understand that, it was check your gauges and get those props spinning. This is made to sound like it's through radio, and the effect is actually pretty good. Might be a little bit hard to hear on the video, but you can pretty much understand it pretty well in real life. But we went the extra effort to give it the sound that it's actually like pilots talking to each other on the ground. And we'll try one more. Okay, so it repeated it. That's normal because it's randomly selecting the sounds, as I said. Let's see if we can get another one. Fighters incoming, watch your 6, guys. Okay, so let's start up the engine here, and then I'll do the machine gun as we're up and running. Let's go to a civilian aircraft and check out the random ground chatter on the civilian aircraft.
Double wasp, no whistle. Lycoming.
Okay, there we go, Lycoming. So let's see what we've got here. Probably a clear prop.
Clear prop.
Yes, sir. And let's see what we got here for the random choices of ground control or pilot speaking to ground control. Okay, aircraft ready for takeoff. We'll be departing to the south.
Departure control, 121.0, fuel squawk 6750 today.
Okay, there you go. That pretty much wraps up the introduction of the Aspire. I hope that you enjoy flying with the Aspire as much as I've enjoyed creating it. Can't wait to see some videos from customers out there. Okay, thanks a lot.